Alright, I have to bring this up before I go. Because, in my opinion, talking about stuff like this on YouTube is only going to be around for a very short time. Along the way, I've talked about globalism, the idea of world government, and how the United States had to be weakened and undermined in order to establish one world government. I've even touched on Agenda 21, which is now called Agenda 2030, that is a globalist plan to gather up dissenters and people who are trying to defend this country and the Constitution when and if they ever decide to institute all of this and control the world population. Because overall, they can't run their system if there's so many of us on this planet. There's just not enough of them and way too many of us. I've even touched on the Georgia Guidestones, a monument somewhere in Georgia with their whole plan to manage the population written out in stone, of all things, in several different languages. And yes, everything I have just mentioned has been considered a conspiracy theory for years and years now. But the people who want to establish one world government and globalism outright admit it now. Agenda 2030, you can look it up and see the documents, should you be so inclined. The Georgia Guidestones, you can go visit them if you want to see what's what. I've been saying since the beginning of all of this, even years before the 2016 election, it's only a conspiracy until you find it on paper. Until it's documented and people have signed off on it, then it's a conspiracy. But once that threshold is crossed, you can no longer call it a conspiracy because you can read it, you can put your hands on it, and you can physically touch it in some cases. So, who are the globalists? Who kicked the ball down the field originally? That's the United Nations. And from the United Nations inside workings and policies spawned the European Union. And don't shit yourself. Everything that's been going on in Europe, they plan to do here and more. That was Hillary's job. That was the job that Obama said only she could do. And that's why she said, after walking off the debate stage, I believe it was during the last debate with Donald Trump, quote, if that man gets elected, we're all going to hang. Because globalism and one world religion and everything they're trying to establish is completely contrary to our Constitution. How many of you know what the Patriot Act is? It sounds like something that's good, doesn't it? It was set up after, I don't want to say it just so, 9/11, so that surveillance could be ran, or at least wise that's the way they couched it, on people within the United States who were of an interest to the intelligence agencies. The reality of it is, it's a surveillance system to keep track of you, me, and everybody else who's interacting within the system. And it is linked into everything. into the telephone system, into the social media system, into anything you could possibly think of that could have a digital footprint. And this is the part that concerns me the most for the time that we're entering into now. The funding ran out for the Patriot Act, and the Democrats voted to extend it for 3 months. And Donald Trump signed it. And I'm hoping that all of that was done to keep track of the people who are trying to keep track of us. Because if not, we're being set up for a big ass fall. A lot of people are too young to remember the Weathermen and the Weather Underground, an organization that's closely linked to communistic ideology and undermining and attacking the infrastructure of the United States. That's always been their thing. And a lot of people think that the Weathermen and the Weather Underground disappeared in the middle and late 70s. Not true. What happened is that they allied with the United Nations and now the European Union to be an inside, for lack of a better word, guerrilla force within the United States to sow discourse within the citizenry of this country, to introduce confusing policies like political correctness, social justice, and to promote the idea of climate change, or as they used to call it, global warming. In other words, the leopard grew new spots, and they no longer go by the old title that they went by. Now they call them leftists. People who sow the seeds of confusion, promote policies that are against the Constitution, and drag this country inch by inch ever closer to being undermined and folded in to what they call the New World Order, which is globalism, one world government and one world religion. What's their mantra? No border, no wall, no USA at all. Anybody see where this is heading yet? You ought to. And if you do, it should scare the shit out of you. I wasn't clued in about most of this over 30 years ago now. And yeah, I didn't believe it. I thought it was freaking crazy. But I've watched it all unfold throughout 30 years worth of observation to where we are today. And it isn't all just coincidence. Somebody's trying to build something right underneath our nose. And that's why I preach, or have been talking about, people paying attention, getting involved whatever way they can, before these people, quite literally, have their way with us. And I guarantee you, you are not going to enjoy what they're trying to slip in from behind. Larry Grathwohl became a member of the Weather Underground organization as an undercover operative for law enforcement agencies in Cincinnati. Within the organization was to carry directives from the Central Committee to the operating units in the field.
I brought up the subject of what's going to happen after we take over the government. We become responsible then for administrating, 250 million people. And there was no answers. No one had given any thought to economics. How are you going to clothe and feed these people? The only thing that I could get was that they expected that the Cubans and the North Vietnamese and the Chinese and the Russians would all want to occupy different portions of the United States. They also believed that their immediate responsibility would be to protect against what they called the counter-revolution. And they felt that this counter-revolution could best be guarded against by creating and establishing re-education centers in the Southwest, where we would take all the people who needed to be re-educated into the new way of thinking and teach them how things were going to be. I asked, well, what is going to happen to those people that we can't re-educate, that are die-hard capitalists? And the reply was that they'd have to be eliminated. And when I pursued this further, they estimated that they would have to eliminate 25 million people.
You heard what he said, right? That different countries would be interested in occupying different sections of the United States. FEMA region this, FEMA region that, and so forth and so on. So when and if this all goes down, if you think you're going to drive to grandma's cabin in the woods that's 2 states away, it ain't going to happen. Because it's all been divided up. They know where they want to go, where they want to have their emplacements, and so forth and so on. And if the system is as advanced as I think it is, they already know what you're going to do, what you have, and who's going to be there with you when you try and do it. That's why I have said on several occasions, this ain't over till it's over. And you damn sure better be prepared to assess the people around you and surround yourself, hopefully, with rock solid people who haven't went out of their way to screw you over in the past when things were easy. That way you can at least wise have a percentage of hope that they're not going to screw you over and throw you to the wolves when things are hard. The term all for one and one for all damn sure better mean something. And our word is our bond, and trust me, better mean exactly that. Or all will be lost. Because according to some other book that is fond of making predictions, if all is lost, it could very well cost you your soul.